Let's get to some of this stuff with Connor O'Gara from Saturday Down South. Connor, you heard the music coming in here with Jalen Catalon's pick six and the Diana Ross theme song underneath it. It did feel like Saturday was a coming out party for Arkansas defense. That just had to be it was something else for us to watch. What was it like for you seeing that?
You know, it was not necessarily a stunning result because I feel like that's taking away from what we've already seen in the first part of this year, but 6 turnovers, six interceptions for that Ole Miss offense that had been lights out. Florida couldn't stop that offense. Kentucky couldn't stop it. Alabama couldn't stop it. And what does Barry Odom do? He draws up the blueprint yet again. That's the most impressive thing for me that I've seen from Barry Odom is that he has drawn up the defensive blueprint for how to stop several SEC offenses already. At a time when it seems like nobody is playing defense, Arkansas is doing so in a way that is just unbelievable after what they've been in recent memory. And I watched that thinking to myself, man, they have a good thing rolling, and that's what it looks like when a team is buying in and a coach is ready to go, because that's not an everyday performance. And I'm sure, as Arkansas fans know from the recent history, moments like that have not been very frequent for this program.
That's true. It's an underdog team that people want to root for right now. They're getting a national following 1 month into the season from media members who watch as many football games as they possibly can and then inform their viewers and readers and listeners and followers, the fun teams to pay attention to. And right now, even in a season where KJ Costello had a record-setting performance, and Alabama's offense looked like they can't be stopped, and all of that. Right now, Arkansas Razorback football might be the most inspiring story in the SEC. I scratch my head even saying this, but it's true, isn't it?
Think about this: if that call was made properly on the Bo Nix spike, you're talking about an Arkansas team that's 3-1, but more importantly, we would be talking about Sam Pittman having as many wins as the rest of the new SEC head coaches combined. I mean, that is stunning given what he inherited. And after hearing the comments over the summer about, the anonymous coaches are saying this looks like a roster that was hit by NCAA sanctions. I mean, I disagreed with that then, but this is coaching. This is coaching with so many of these same pieces from the Chad Morris era. It's hard not to look at this and think about how different the culture is in such a short period of time. And you know what? This is an inspiring story because a few months ago, Arkansas was still considered the laughingstock, and we're debating if Arkansas is going to win a game. And now all of a sudden, it's like, man, how can you have anybody but Sam Pittman as your SEC Coach of the Year? Barry Odom right now is the front runner, in my opinion, for the Broyles Award. And Arkansas is suddenly looking very sneaky and like a team that is saying, hey, why can't we be considered the second best team in the SEC West? And the fact that we're saying that, mid to late October is just stunning.
Speaking to Connor O'Gara here on Halftime. Connor, we've had a lot of fans kind of chime in, and obviously in the bye week, so we're going to be excited for the next 2 weeks heading into the Texas A&M game. But do you think it's fair to say, just based off what we've seen so far, an astounding defense that is bend, not break, an offense that is slowly, I think is probably the right way to say it, slowly starting to pick up speed a little bit, score more points and different things like that, but still plenty of room to grow offensively. Do you think this Razorback team, while they may not win the rest of the season or win every game the rest of the season, but will be competitive and put a lot of fear into the rest of the opponents for the rest of the year?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's any doubt about it. Now, I don't think that they're necessarily going to slow down Alabama or anything like that, and I think that there are matchups on that schedule where, that defense is going to have some tough moments, and what we haven't really seen quite yet is the full depth issues. Like, what happens if Arkansas is dealing with just a significant amount of injuries on that defense? I know they're playing without Bumper Pool, but at the same time, what happens when you're without several starting defensive linemen or several guys in the front seven? Can they still keep the ship afloat? That's the question that I have moving forward for this team. But you're right. I think that based on what we've seen in the progression offensively, this is a team that right now is capable of staying on the field with almost anyone in this league. And I did not expect to be saying that. Now, we saw in the second half against Georgia what happens when a team makes those right adjustments and when Felipe Franks isn't necessarily making the best decisions. Arkansas doesn't necessarily have that kind of room for error. But at the same time, I think that's the most encouraging thing so far is they've been ready to go, and you're not going to question the game plan at all with this team. You know that they're going to be ready, and they're going to be in the right spot to be able to make plays, especially on the defensive side. So, yeah, it's been about as encouraging as a start as you possibly could have asked for if you're an Arkansas fan.
Let's jump around the SEC and kind of get your thoughts on some of the games that happened. And I know a lot of our listeners like to make fun of Chad Morris and Auburn, and especially what happened a couple weeks ago, which we shall not speak of that event. And I like to make our listeners happy, so let's make fun of Auburn for a second. What happened at South Carolina this weekend, falling to South Carolina 30-22? Is it fair to say that the Gus seat is getting a little bit warmer right now?
Oh, yeah. I mean, when is it not? But especially after this. And the issue is when you come out and you say during the offseason that you think Chad Morris is the best offensive coordinator in the country, you better back it up. And right now, this offense is just baffling from a schematic standpoint. Some of the things that they're doing are just frustrating with an offensive line that clearly is not well suited to pass block. And they actually look like they have figured out a strength, which is Tank Bigsby, who looks like arguably the best freshman running back in the country. Arkansas fans know about that. But at the same time, they still continue to throw the ball so much with Bo Nix. And it's baffling to see some of the moves that they make when they're force-feeding Seth Williams targets when J.C. Horn just has his number. And you're questioning the decisions that are being made at the quarterback position. I mean, through 4 games, Bo Nix right now, 11th in the SEC and passes per touchdown. He's 13th in the SEC in quarterback rating. He's 13th in yards per attempt. He's 14th, dead last in the SEC in completion percentage. This isn't working. And I don't buy Gus Malzahn saying that, hey, we're still trying to figure out, what exactly we are offensively, whatever. Man, 40% of the season is done. And if you're going to go out and make a hire that's controversial, you better be able to back it up, because right now Chad Morris just has confirmed what Arkansas fans do all along, which is his best days as an offensive mind are behind him. And this belief that he's all of a sudden going to flip the switch, I'm not seeing it. And I don't see how Auburn is anything but a mediocre team in this conference, because, man, the start so far has just been really, really troubling. And to lose a game like that against an inferior South Carolina team, that all comes back to this offense just not having a clue what it's doing.
Last game I want to touch on before I pass it back over to Phil, and I think it was one that really, really struck out to me. Tennessee only putting up 7 points against Kentucky and falling 34-7 and back-to-back pick sixes for Garantano. And what happened to Tennessee this weekend after what I think all of us would agree was a strong outing against Georgia the week prior? Obviously, they lost by, I believe it's 20 or something like that, but really came out flat against Kentucky.
So, in Space Jam, when the Monstars go back into the people from Moron Mountain, right? Like, they go back into these, like, small, like, I don't know what they're even called, but they are a shell of themselves, and they have been a shell of themselves since halftime of that Georgia game. I mean, it is mind-boggling to see how bad this offense has been since then. Jared Garantano can't get out of his own way. I mean, the guy cannot stop turning the ball over, and the problem is that Tennessee doesn't exactly have capable backup options. I mean, their true freshman that they're hoping to be able to turn to, Harrison Bailey, didn't necessarily get a spring camp, and he spent part of fall camp out because of COVID protocol. And all of a sudden you're like, well, where's the offensive answer going to come from? Because they're not good enough to be one-dimensional and to beat good teams. And against the defense that was ready to go, I mean, they didn't have a chance in the second half of that game. It was awful. And credit Kentucky, because they did something that they haven't done since 1984, which is win in Knoxville. Mark Stoops completely outcoached Jeremy Pruitt. The offensive adjustments have been few and far between. This is a Tennessee team that 2 weeks ago we're thinking, is Tennessee back? Are they going to make that big stride? Now it's looking like they're going to fall to 2-3 after a loss against Alabama, and they're going to be asking some major questions moving forward.
Let's see, Carolina, LSU, Kentucky at Mizzou, Bama at Tennessee, Auburn at Ole Miss this next weekend. And I hear the Big Ten is getting involved in college football this weekend. How about that? So Saturday Tradition also can start to write some actual game stories for the first time in a while, right?
My friend, it has been a long time coming. I am looking forward to that as a native of the Big Ten, as somebody who was transplanted here to the SEC part of the country. Trust me, I am looking forward to getting to be able to do that. But I mean, it's interesting that the SEC now is sitting there with 4 games this weekend. And the Big Ten is kind of going to get the big national stage. College game days going up to Minnesota, and the entire Big Ten is playing this weekend. It'll be interesting to kind of see how that national conversation is shifted. We saw how much excitement there was when the SEC came back and how it felt like college football was finally starting. It'll be interesting to see the way that we're talking about some of these Big Ten contenders as it relates to the SEC in the national picture.
Connor, thanks, man. Always love talking with you. Have a great rest of the week. And next week we'll preview Arkansas v. Texas A&M.
Thanks, Connor.
Sounds good. Appreciate it, guys.